I love it.
So I guess the first question, as we're all still wiping away the tears, is talk me through the decision to do what you did to poor Uncle Julius.
Well, Mike Epps, who we love and was such a big part of our show for the first 2 seasons, he came at the beginning of season 2 and said that he had an offer to be in Uncle Buck. Universal and ABC would not give him that offer unless we released him from his contract. And so we released him from his contract because we like Mike and we think that he deserves to be the star of a show. And it was, we thought that there might be a way to work it out. We weren't sure. But then when Uncle Buck was not, was delayed to be a mid-season pickup, that was when we decided to have the car crash so that we could cover ourselves. And then, because we didn't have Mike, at that point we did not have him under contract. He was not contracted to do any episodes, and we had to do it around his schedule. And then when it seemed as if Uncle Buck was then going to go, we had to go into production for our own show, and we didn't want people turning on the show and saying, well, is this an episode that Julius might be in or he might not be in? And we made the decision, you know, at that point that, yes, the car, you know, he does die, you know, at the end of season 2. I mean, he does take his final breath. Could he have been resuscitated? Yes, possibly. But it was a decision made with a heavy heart because he was a big part of the family, and you know, we knew what an asset he was to the cast, but he had an opportunity to go do something else, and we let him do that.
Well, for the cast, I mean, this is not a show where things like this happen all that often. What was your reaction when you saw how the second season ended? And what do you guys miss about having Mike around?
Well, I guess the mic is in my hands, so I guess I'm going to start by answering this. Yeah. You know, we kind of felt like the audience, or like the fans for a second, we were like, well, is he dead, or is he, you know, is it something going to happen? Are we going to be able to work this out? Like, how is this going to go? You know, like Mike O'Malley said, we didn't know. And we didn't know for a while, you know, for a long time. And there was, you know, all these ideas racing through, I'm sure, everyone's head, you know, like what could we do? How could we try to, you know, work it out and figure out how it was going to go? And obviously the tone was going to change without Mike. And, you know, there's a lot of people who really, really love and gravitated towards his character, as we all did. But the show must go on. You know,
and I think
we had to.
Yeah, I also think that we all kind of knew from first season to second season just how amazing our writers were. Because after first season, I know I thought, how are we even going to top this? And then when our writers came through and topped the first season with an amazingly powerful second season, I thought either way it goes, it's going to be great. It's going to be fine. I was excited and anxious to see just how they were going to do it because I knew that it was going to happen. It was just there was no question of it not happening, just how they were going to do it, like Jessie said. So we all have had and continue to have a tremendous amount of faith in our writing staff, and they showed us once again that no matter what the circumstance, they are going to not only bounce back, but really, really go higher. So I think you're going to be very pleased with what season 3 is going to hold.
I didn't think it was going to happen, honestly. I honestly thought this was just a big joke, and like, you know, we would get the script.
He would be like, nah,
yeah, man, this ain't happening. This is just, you know, it's a cliffhanger. Everything's gonna be all right. And I don't think it was until they sent out the first episode of season 3 when I was like, whoa. And honestly, reading that script, I was like, okay, I'm like halfway through at a certain point. In my mind, that's what it was gonna be. It was a mistaken identity. The dudes in the morgue had to run. Like, I had all of these different, like, I know what they're probably gonna do now. Okay, so they didn't do that. Okay, so you know what? About 5 pages left. They're probably gonna do this.
It's called denial.
I was in denial, but no, it happened, and it was sad. It's literally like, you know, you lose a family member, and it's it's cliche to say, but we are like a family. Like, we really love each other. We really enjoy being around each other. So it was tough.
I was on the
It's very
other
hard.
end. I was asking Mike, like, man, you coming back or not? You know? But, you know, it's always wonderful when an actor can get work. And like Mike O'Malley said, you know, for him to get the opportunity to star in his own show, why not? So I'm happy that, you know, he's pursuing his career. But we're going to miss him. We're definitely going to miss him. The show will miss him, but the show must go on.
Well, you know, when we were, you know, Ali can talk about this because he was there for the first 3 weeks of the writer's room when we were trying to figure it out. And at one point, Ali's like, well, you know, what were you saying? But it's like, he's a 40.
I was saddened by Mike's death, but I was happy that the budget allowed for me to be hired. Cleared up some salary cap.
Cleared out some solid
Then
But I mean, we were, you know, could he be a ghost? And then that was just breaking reality. We didn't want to do that. And then
there were a lot of conversations about the possibilities of here's the Mike alive scenarios, here's the Uncle Julius alive scenarios, here's the Uncle Julius dead scenarios, and which ones can hold up over the course of a season and not hurt the show.
Well, how confident were you that the show had a strong enough sort of, I guess, comedic spine that it could also hold the sadness, the very real sadness that's in this episode?
Well, I was very confident because of just how great these actors are. And so they, you know, time and again, we have given them material that was very dense and that at times could be broad, but yet they rooted it in this specificity and heart and realness. And so I knew how talented our cast was. And truthfully, you could, you know, every one of these guys could anchor the show week in, week out and have the strong A story, and they would be amazing at it. And so it's always when you have this many great actors, it's just how do you give them enough material so they're not killing you as the showrunner and being like, you know, what, I got 2 lines this week, what's going on? And so in a way, it opened up all this other space for them all to do more and show the more that they could do.
How did that feel different, being on the set on the days when you actually were doing these dramatic scenes, given that this is a cast that you normally make funnies with, and suddenly here you are crying, staring out the window mournfully?
Me and Rico talked about this earlier, actually, how the energy just coming back for the 3rd season was so different. And, you know, he said it was almost as if there was a speech that was made before we came in, like, listen, you know, everybody's got to be in this zone, so let's kind of tone it down, because I mean, it's a party when we show up on set. Like, I mean, we have music, it's lively, you know, it's like a big family reunion like every single time. So coming in for this, with this episode, you know, it was just, it was different. And finishing it was such a relief because we're just so used to laughing and being loud, and it's just so much that we had to pull away from to just be in the moment to be able to do this episode, you know?
I kind of tried, like, first season, second season, I tried to have, like, okay, what do I want to accomplish this season, you know, going into it. And one of the things I want to do is be more vulnerable. And that was with everybody. You know, what we do not just in front of our castmates, but we do in front of our showrunners, our executive producers, our writers, our cameramen, everybody. And you essentially have to be okay with being kind of, I like to call it emotionally naked in front of these people. And I think first season, it was kind of like, oh, I don't know, you know, they're looking and this person's looking. I mean, we had a scene on the rooftop in the pilot where Mike came in and gave us a note, and all of a sudden the scene just kind of went someplace. Sometimes as actors, scenes will kind of go someplace, and then the directors or writers will kind of pull it back to get it kind of where they want it. But you remember, man, we did an emotional version of the rooftop scene from 101. And it was the first time, you know, he kind of teared up and I kind of teared up. And I just remember thinking, you know, going forward, if I have to go to that place, I can go to that place with Jessie. Like, you know, and so what happens is over, like, the course of those 2 episodes, I think we had to find that for everybody because we all saw our emotions. You know, there was nothing, we couldn't be shy. It wasn't just me and Jessie now, it was the whole family, you know, in the hospital lobby, you know, processing the loss of our uncle. So, you know, it was tough, but it was great. It really was. For me as an actor, it was very liberating. And I know, like, you know, when I'm in the trenches with these guys, you know, it ain't nothing we can't do. You know, we can get emotionally butt naked and just do a scene.
and touching back on what you said, how has it changed a little bit? It's been in the trenches. Like when Mike says he really has, it allows us to do more. That's putting it lightly. We do more. The king of monologues is really sitting to my left right here. I'm talking 3-page monologues every day. And it was stressful, but it brought us, I hate to say, like, it brought us together. Like, not that we weren't in the first and second season, but man, the third season was like, like Lean on Me
Definitely a
part
whole
2.
new way,
You know what I mean? Like, for real.
It was some adjusting because the way Mike Epps would come to work every morning with a boombox, playing music loud, and and that's how we
When
started
we're
our
rolling.
day. So it was some adjustment going from second season to third season, but I think we're all, we've hit a wonderful stride on this show, and I think this season is going to definitely kick ass. I think we're going to get a lot more viewership because so many people are endearing, these characters are already endearing, but you're going to find out so much more about our characters because we found out so much more about our characters this season. But I think Ali could better, delve into that.
Talk about you guys. Well, for starters, just in terms of actors, directing these guys is pretty amazing because just in terms of their craft, every single one of them is able to, keep a character absolutely grounded, but take you to a place where it's light, it's funny, it doesn't feel hokey, but also shift you right back to a place where they're tearing at your heart and you feel it 100%. And so there's no fake moments in their acting, and that's a credit to Mike because as an actor himself, that's the one thing that he really calls for is that even when they're being funny, he needs it to always feel like it's grounded. And then just in terms of how it functions as a show, in real terms, as you come into season 3, we're 16 episodes into a show. If you were talking network television, that's not even one whole season, right? So the amount of space they have to cover is much greater than you're accustomed to. So you're trying to get familiar with characters in a shorter span of screen time, if not actual time. And then, just what their glue is, what their chemistry is on screen. It's tough to lose Mike Epps, but at the same time, you do kind of find out, okay, here's where this person is strong. Here's where this person is strong. Here's how this person shines. Tichina is funny in a way that rises to a different level if Mike isn't there doing a particular type of quip. Then Erica gets to relate to Tichina in a different sort of way because now there's spaces available to explore that relationship. You guys will be seeing a lot of Tiana this year, which there just wasn't screen time available to you got 5 all-stars. Tiana isn't sitting here, but you got to start in 5 right there. Mike is like the world's best 6-man, and what's he going to do? He's good enough to lead a show. So I just think what they have in terms of chemistry and ability, what you're actually kind of doing to me, is music, is that you're making space for everybody to kind of play the notes that they can play.
No, I want to give the actors a chance to sort of tease a little bit about where their characters are going this season, and I think it's Tiana, it's Missy who has a line, I think in the 3rd episode, that feels sort of like the theme of the season. She asks, who do you want to be, who you are, or do you want to be who you want to be? And that feels kind of like the journey that these characters are all going on this season, and I wanted you guys to just sort of reflect a little on how that manifests itself in season 3.
Well, I think for Imchuk's character, the death of Uncle Julius is really, it's very jarring for her, but in a way, it's positive in that it opens up the floodgates for the possibilities that are out there. Immediately, she's interested in furthering her education because it makes her hyper aware of where she is, what she's doing, what she's contributing, what her life is not. And I think in that, she starts to want to discover more about who she is as a person. So that takes her on a whole other journey. Not to mention, she punched her brother in the face last season. So she's got to do this therapy. So that's a whole other can of worms. She's got to meet with this therapist because it's mandatory, but in that she finds more about herself, and then it prompts her to ask some very serious questions, and a specifically serious one to Cassie, and that's sort of the big revelation in Imchuk's journey for this season. And I was actually quite floored when I found out the answer. Yeah, it was a table read stop moment. We were all like, but so you'll definitely want to watch and see what happens. But hers is more of a self exploration and discovery, who she is and literally what she wants to do with her life.
I just love what Mike O'Malley does. It's like you come to work, it's like, okay, what are we gonna do? And whatever is on this man's brain happens. And no telling what the hell is on this man's brains at any given point in time. But I think with Cassie definitely lost a part of herself this third season, and ending the second season, going into this third season. Obviously, losing a sibling is never easy. So I think we delve a little more into Cassie's past, and Cassie finds out who she is, and I think she's more open to love this season as well. But I think with definitely the dynamic between my daughter and myself, now that Mike Epps' character is no longer there, like Ali said, there's space and room for that relationship to develop. Actually, our relationship is, we're going to get a little deeper, but it's this third season. We all found out some really very interesting things about our character. Erica goes through something, and I told Mike O'Malley, I said, don't tell her. It's something about Cassie's character that happens in her past, and I specifically told Mike O'Malley, don't let Erica know. I think it'd be better if she not know until it really happens, so it can be a shock, to her. So we kind of do that amongst each other as a cast.
Keep the mic straight. It's kind of cool to be amongst the crowd we can actually talk about, because we've been hush-hush about the passing of Uncle Julius. But it really propelled Reggie. He's kind of staying on the same course. He obviously wants to continue to grow the family's wealth and leave that legacy. And Cam is really on cruise control. I think he finally started to buy into what Reggie was saying. Man, we got to save some money. You'll even see him. He wants to start his own. He starts his own foundation this season. But what happened with losing Uncle Julius is Reggie realizes that everything we have today, it could be gone tomorrow. And there's a great line in 308 where Cam looks at Reggie and says, "Man, what happened to you? You was just this nice, cool, chill manager, and all of a sudden you cutthroat and ready to do everything you got to do to get everything. Do we have to hoover up every dollar that's out there?" But that's the thing. I think death affects everybody differently, and for Reggie, it just really just propels him into just being a cutthroat. Gotta get it now because I cannot afford to wait till later.
Yeah. Man, I'm just thinking about that scene now. That's one of my favorites. For Cam. Oh, stop. Nah. I had something in my eye. I had to get it out. Oh, okay. It's thug tears only. It's thug tears.
Ali said the tears of a bitch.
Shady, man. You see how
That's
they do
Ali.
Cam? You see how
That's
they do
Ali.
Cam?
Erica.
A grown
Ali.
man can't show emotion these days.
Ali just said.
Right.
Tears of a bitch. Everybody didn't hear it.
We'll go with thug tears. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I'm going with thug tears. Thug tears only. For Cam, I think Uncle Julius was his father figure, and then losing that, he realizes oh, wait a minute, I have to be the man of the house, and that changes him in a way. I'm not going to say it makes him more serious, but it kind of does. And he starts to take himself a little more seriously, and he demands respect in a way that he didn't before. Because before he demanded respect, but it was from a boyish place. But now, coming into this third season, it's different. It's very different. But second to that, he starts to question things I never thought Cam would question. Not on this show, but you know, he basically just he sits up one day and he starts to ask himself, like, why am I here? Because it can't be just to play basketball. Like, that's not my purpose. You know what I mean? So he's on this quest to find his purpose, and the things that come, you know, when he starts digging up roots just for some self-discovery is pretty deep.
Unfortunately, I believe that we are out of time. So
Man, we ain't never out of time. Who gonna come kick us out?
Hey, I could stay all afternoon, but I think someone else has to be in here.
We're going to continue this out on the street. Okay, we'll answer all questions you want about Survivor's Remorse.
Thanks to Dan Fienberg from The Hollywood Reporter coming out here, and thank you guys